Hey, writers and readers, welcome to Manuscript Massacre. I'm MC, your master of ceremonies. Today we're going to be looking at A Thousand Years' War, Chapter 1. It's a first chapter in a larger novel, and from what I understand, it's a science fiction, like a hard sci-fi. And I'm going to see if this will hold any muster. First chapters are crucial. If you don't nail those first hits, it can drive away your audience real quick. So let's be brutal, honest, but above all, constructive. If you enjoy these videos, don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube. And if you want to comment along and fact check me as I go, feel free. Now let's get massacring.
Chapter 1. Mid-March, May 3398. Bao arrives. I see that you all wish to remain within your comfort zones. Well, you must give that up. You are with the Corps now. You will never be in your comfort zones again. Senior Guardian Milis Motumb, Corps Guard Academy, Moscow Campus, 3170, addressing a first-year class of guards who had just failed a field exercise.
All right, let's pause there. Starting at the beginning, having an intro from a general to his troops, always good. Gives that nice military sci-fi start, and a lot of those hard military mecha sci-fi readers love that sort of thing. It does seem a little soft from my perspective. You want to remain within your comfort zones. Well, give that up. You're in the Corps now. You'll never be in your comfort zones. That's too soft. I think you should go more hardcore. Well, knock that off, you know? Just really hammer in that good old-fashioned General Patton style, talking to his troops, especially after they failed a field exercise. I want to hear some, stern drill sergeant mastery here.
Samaya Bakri gazed down at the corpse through the clear lid of a cold sleep capsule. He looked more ragged than most she had encountered in her long career.
I'm going to stop there for a second because he looked... I get what you're trying to say, but that hesitation, especially in narrative voice, is very confusing. It kind of throws off the readers a lot, and it's not necessary. I get it. You're gazing it down at the corpse, so it's an it because it's not alive, but it's technically alive because it's a cold sleep. It sounds like, but the readers understand. You could just say he looked, and we'll know what you mean.
Even among soldiers from the war zones. The man's black hair and beard appeared as stubble, so he had been in cold sleep so long they had grown despite that glacial passage of time, or he had awakened at some point. Maybe both. Otherwise, he was a skeleton with tan skin draped over it, though still too thick-boned and sturdy to have grown up on Mars, as per his record. Bakri frowned, wondering at that. Daimos
All right. Interesting start so far. It's a little expository. You're summarizing what's happening and what Samaya is staring at. But not too bad. The beard and stubble is good description.
Station, dear. Interstellar personnel raise their children in the higher gravity of the orbital station to give them a wider range of future assignments.
Somebody's talking? Who's she talking to? Deimos Station, dear. Is dear like... oh dear, or... oh dear, you're on Deimos Station. I'm confused right now. I have no idea who's talking to whom or what's going on right now. Maybe you want to say Samaya leaned over the capsule and started, verbalizing her thoughts, or something to show us that she's speaking out loud to nobody in the room or something. But I am curious about the dear because you made it lowercase. If it was capital D, she's addressing the person in the capsule. If it's lowercase d, then I'm not sure what you mean. Maybe it was supposed to be Deimos Station, ... oh dear. Maybe that's what you meant.
Samaya started and choked back a childish squeal, unsure if the feminine voice had spoken aloud, or floated directly into her brain.
What? Okay. Samaya startled, I think you meant to say startled, You could say started, I get it, but I think startled is better. Choked back a childish squeal. I think there's context we need. Let's see.
When the core showed up, you could never be sure. Just focus on your job, she chided herself, fixing her attention firmly on the data streaming across the capsule's cover.
So now is just focus your job this voice in her head, or is it her own thoughts? I think I know what you're trying to do, and I think it's confusing. I think you need to play around a bit here. I'm assuming that the voice in the head is something that's foreign, like somebody speaking to her, like an intercom or something inside her head. But she wasn't sure if it was inside her head or somebody spoken it out loud. I think what you need to do is Deimos station ... oh dear. And then at that moment, cut. Samaya react to it going, was that in my head or in the room, or what was that? And then continue on. And then we'll understand the difference. And then where you have just focus on your job, you have this in the middle of the paragraph like that. The subject of just focus on your job is Samaya talking to herself. And the subject of that paragraph is the feminine voice in her head. So you want two separate paragraphs there. You want just focus on your job to be on its own line, and then comma, she chided herself. Okay. Let's continue. And I promise to eventually learn how to stop saying okay after every sentence, I swear. Pinky swear, right?
The system had brought this subject up to wakeable condition over the previous 2 days, but not with the rest of the AHPS Santiago's human cargo. The command had moved him into this small, bare isolation room right away, and ordered Bakri to monitor his resuscitation herself. It had been decades since she'd done such hands-on work, but the orders came straight from the core, so that was that.
Out of exposition again. And I know you tried to throw the voice in the head to break it up a little bit, but I think you're cheating. I think you put that in there to say, hey, look, it's not all exposition. I've got a line of, weird voice in the head dialogue. But all you're doing is summarizing why she's there, what's happening, and explaining everything. That is so boring. Don't do that to us. Don't give us boring. Okay? Science fiction has a high risk, just like fantasy, it has a high risk of reaching that boredom state when you have to explain the universe before people can understand why they're in the room. Just give us those little tidbits, a sentence here, a sentence there, in between lines of dialogue. Like, we have complete white room right now. Where are we? This bare isolation room. Okay, what is an isolation room? Are we in a building? Are we on a planet? Are we is this a hospital? Is it military ward? I have no idea what's going on right now, other than frozen corpse, semi-corpse in the room that they're awakening. That's all we know, but you put in a lot of extra information that I already forgot. Definitely don't want to do that.
Bakri adjusted her headscarf and glanced at the observation window. The two most senior core members she had ever seen gazed down from there, the senior protector for the Centauri triplex sector and her guard, the Guardian, both apparently the age of a junior commander.
The guard, the Guardian. Her guard, what's with the repetition? And her guard. I see you capitalize the G, so I'm assuming guard as a title, as opposed to just any guard. But why do we need a title, capital G guard, followed by the Guardian, capital T, capital G? Why do you feel the need to do that? And then you say both, apparently. So you're saying that this senior protector and her guard are both the Guardian. Wordsmithing. Do better.
The effects of cold sleep and subspace jumps kept interstellars perpetually repeating the same 20 to 45 years old bio-age loop, which disoriented most of ground-locked humanity, which associated authority with gray hair.
That is a lot of information in a very tight space. The effects of cold sleep and subspace jumps, kept interstellars, perpetually repeating the same 20 to 45 years old bio-age loop. I'm not sure what that means. Are you saying that they're rejuvenating, or I'm confused? You're gonna have this probably needs to be about 3 or 4 paragraphs, but you're gonna risk huge exposition doing that. I think what you need to do is break this apart and have us react to the actual being. Describe the being. Okay. Whatever this bio-age loop is, describe. I'm guessing it's that they're getting younger, or they're repeating some sort of age gap. So describe the person. What do they look like? How old do they look like? How old does their record say? That will help sell it a lot better than this horrible techno-babble of a paragraph that I had to read so slowly because my brain can't process that kind of... Just no. No.
Bakri knew the Guardian's name because he had issued her orders, Aldred of Freiburg. A big man wearing grey model fatigues with the pulsar star of the Corps on his sleeve and scars over his right eye and slashed across his left cheek.
Okay, scars and slashes are cliche for describing, but I'll give you credit that when you're trying to describe multiple characters, especially in a first chapter, you want to give some sort of a distinction. For Sakri, you gave her the headscarf. For this Aldred, you gave him scars and slashes. So having physical characteristics that are distinct will help separate them. But why is she thinking about the Guardian's name in this moment? Who issued her orders? Why does this matter in this immediate moment? Or is this just more exposition? Think about that.
An intimidating presence, to be sure, but not the one who scared her most. The petite woman in front of him wielded the real power. He's ready. Do you want me to initiate waking? Bakri stuttered, clasping her freezing hands together.
First off, hesitation right there. Do not do the do. When you have repetition, okay, the do here, and you have this hesitation, human speech and acting speech are totally different. When you're in a movie and you're watching them do dialogue, they don't make mistakes. They don't do hums and hesitations and let me think about this for a second. Let me gather my thoughts. No, because the movie would be 400, years long. They speak eloquently, to the point, and the only times they have hesitation or stuttering is when they they are shivering because they fell in a river, or they have a literal medical stutter. You don't need that hesitation. Be confident with the dialogue. You can describe hesitation, but you don't need to. You could describe a reluctance, rather. But don't add the hesitation like that. You don't need it.
She felt like a child before these two, although she had grandchildren of her own and was the most senior medical official in the facility. Go ahead, Samaya, the woman replied in a kind voice, the same voice which had answered Bakri's unspoken concern earlier. We'll polarize this window now. Take a moment to review our story, then initialize. He won't take it well, but stay calm and everything will be fine.
Review our story. Okay. Do you mean cover story? That could be interesting. I would delve deeper into that. And rather than these you have a single line of dialogue, he's ready, and then you have this paragraph of polarizing, and we'll stay out of it. I kind of want more of a back and forth. I want some question, if there's superiors watching this happen, maybe they have questions. Should she be announcing what she's doing, which will help paint the scene for the reader as well? It's like, I'm now initiating the, defrosting. I'm now initiating the Austin Powers, the evacuation.
Stage 5. Evacuation beginning.
The medical officer's nerves abated at the sound of the protector's voice as the observation window faded into the dull metallic wall.
The nerves abated. That's telling emotions. We talk about this. Not telling emotions. Show us emotions. Does she take a deep breath and let out a big sigh, and the stress, falls off of her shoulders a little bit, maybe? What are the physical things that her body is doing now that the eyes are off of her, so to speak? And are they actually off her? She said she'll polarize the window. She didn't say she was going anywhere. They're still watching.
She spoke the initiation command, and the old Model 106D capsule warmed.
Spoke the initiation command. Now you're telling us the dialogue? Where's the dialogue? Initiate. Decoupling procedure, decapitation initiation, whatever it is. I know that'll be techno-babble to us, but that's still a line of dialogue for that command. And then you describe what that command means by showing us what the machine does in response. And here you say, the old model warmed. Well, what does warmed mean? That's a very generic term. Oh, it warmed up. What? Huh? Is it like a bath? You're running a bath for him? You just chuck. Is this guy literally sitting in an ice cube and it's like, all right, time to wake up? Hot water bath. That'll do the trick, no problem. We don't need good technology. We just need, a nice little oven. Be specific. Break it down for us. Give us a little bit of that techno-babble. Here is where it's welcome. There's the overkill, which is what you had before, where you compressed it all into that massive paragraph of complexity that my brain couldn't even process. Here, warmed, like the complete 180. Somewhere in the middle should work. Give us somewhere in the middle.
Probes and tubes detached while sensor readings scrolled across the capsule's cover. Everything seemed in order, so Bakri retrieved her Virtu book to review the patient's background one last time. 4 full tours in interstellar service. Coming from Galatea, originally bound for New Cairo Deep Space Transit Station. Galatea, Bakri thought, poor man. An enemy infiltration operation, so a whole tour spent fighting fellow humans. That scars them. And he doesn't even expect to wake up on this planet.
Okay, so you're putting a little bit of exposition and dialogue, which can be a useful tool. Rather than just summarizing everything in narration, you can put thought bubbles in to kind of give us those details. Let me think for a second here. Okay, spent fighting fellow humans is intriguing, because that means that the norm is fighting something else, which is cool. I like the idea of that humans fighting humans is a rarity, and that they're normally fighting something else. That scars them, though, seems a little generic from I don't know if this is a doctor or a scientist. And he doesn't even expect to wake up on this planet. I think what you're trying to suggest is what this person's mental state will be when they wake up. And as a medical professional, her thoughts should be much more centered on, okay, Galatea, seen some rough stuff, likely some PTSD symptoms to deal with. They weren't even supposed to be on this planet. That's going to cause a lot of issues. He's going to be scared. He's going to be frightened. He's going to be confused. Okay, we're going to have to deal with that and list out the medical issues, followed by the kind of a walkthrough of how she's going to handle it. And there's a big secret with, or not so subtle secret with TV and books. If you give us the plan going in, the plan will go horribly wrong. And if you don't give us the plan and you just hint that they have what they need, the plan will be successful. So here, I suspect things are not going to go right. So you want to have that lead the reader up to it, saying, okay, this is what we expect. This is how I'm going to handle it. And then the handling goes completely wrong. And that builds intrigue because there's tension, there's conflict, there's confusion. And especially in a chapter 1, it opens things up. Like, oh, what's going on? And pulls the reader in more.
2 warning chimes sounded and Bakri stepped up to welcome another war-ravaged soldier to Proxima 2. The capsule cover split and slid back into its walls. The man inside stirred, and...
Wait a minute. 2 warning chimes sounded to welcome another. Are you talking about a new popsicle coming in? Or the same one? I think you're still talking about the person in the capsule, right? So another war-ravaged soldier. Just because of that juxtaposition, it makes it confusing. It sounds like she was just alerted to more people coming into the room versus the machine finishing its defrosting.
Bakri tossed a soft yellow blanket over him. People hated waking up naked with a stranger looking down at them. The blanket and Bakri's green and gold patterned solware camise made bright splashes of color in the metallic room with its black, non-slip floor. Bakri turned her gaze to the emaciated face and started backwards as the eyes snapped wide open. The system had given no alertness warning.
Very, very long paragraph. If you notice, this entire page is one paragraph with the exception of like the last line in a word. Split that up, please. I beg you. Number 1. Number 2, I'm not all that snapped wide scared at this happening. Maybe you want to say that, she looked over, the patient, studying his vitals. The vitals were coming online. Talk about that. Blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen levels. Give us those metrics the way a medical person would. And if you don't know those metrics, which I suspect here you're not confident or comfortable saying it with confidence, you need to do your homework. These are the things that matter to a reader. Those little subtleties that show you may not be a doctor, but that character is, and that character should know what they're talking about. You need to know enough to fool us into thinking you know a lot more. That's the trick. Okay. Now, started and stepped backwards as the eyes snapped open. You have the events backwards. You started in backwards. Okay. Why? Oh, the eyes snapped wide open. Because you gave us the reason after. There's no surprise. She may be started, but we're certainly not. We're like, okay, why? Why? The next line is, where am I? I'd be like, why am I here reading this book? If you want to have that, like, there's no jump scares in reading, unfortunately. No matter how much you want there to be a jump scare, there's no jump scares in reading. It just doesn't happen. So if you want to have that tension, at least, you want her to study the vitals, looking closely. Something's amiss. Maybe she notices a tattoo or something, and she's, but don't forget to also give us the foreshadowing. His vitals are coming online. He's not conscious yet. Okay, let's keep checking him over. That little foreshadowing. He's not conscious yet. Then you lean in close. You're examining. The eyes flipped open wide. And then you have Bakri jump back in surprise. Whoa! The machine didn't even say he was awake yet. See the difference? Say 1, before the other. That's the trick. Okay. Okay. Well, that's my banned word. This is a segue here, but writers, we all have our favorite words that we like to abuse and use over and over and over again. And you have to write those down. When you know you're guilty of something, of overusing a word, you write that word down and you hunt and destroy at least 30% of them. Make sure that they're, you get rid of as many as possible, spread that variety around. Well, it's the same thing when I'm sitting here talking to you. I'm trying to give a nice little, differentiate my words a little bit here and there. And what do you get? Okay. So I got to work on okay. You got to work on maybe bemused. Don't overuse bemused. That used to be one of mine. Let's keep going.
Where am I? Said a raspy voice in outmoded English. Bakri went cold.
Said a raspy voice in outmoded English. Okay. She just was staring at his eyes as they snapped wide open. Are you trying to say that this raspy voice is not from him? Why are you identifying the voice as though it doesn't have a source? You could say the patient spoke in a raspy voice using outmoded English. That's perfectly fine.
Most people couldn't utter a word for a day after revival. What am I dealing with here? Why is it so hard to breathe? Why am I so heavy?
Did you catch that? Why is it so hard to breathe? Breathe and breath, those are two different words, and they are spelt differently.
This isn't New Cairo. It's not New Cairo.
Again, with that repetition. We don't need the repetition. Don't do that. And how does he know it's not New Cairo? Why is it so hard to breathe is one question. You're lumping a lot of things together here. Let's go back a bit. What am I dealing with here? That's a thought bubble. That has nothing to do with the previous sentence. Most people couldn't utter a word. That's a new paragraph. What am I dealing with here? Bakri thought. Okay. Why is it so hard to breathe? I want a dialogue tag. The man said. Patient said. Why am I so heavy is kind of weird too. It's like, why is it so heavy here? Think about it. Close your eyes in that perspective. Why do I feel so heavy? Not why am I so heavy? Why do I feel so heavy? Why does everything feel like weighted down on me? Those are the kinds of questions. This can't be New Cairo, is it? That's the kind of question. You got to think naturally how this character's speaking. How would you speak in that situation? And how is that character different from you? So maybe they speak a little differently, but there's still going to be those basic human thoughts, that natural transition.
The man thrashed weakly while Bakri stared around the Stark room.
What is thrashed weakly? Thrashed is all over the place. You're jumping around. That's thrashing. Weakly, maybe his arms, spread out, meandered, or what's a good word? I don't have a good word at the moment, but thrashed weakly is an oxymoron, and I don't think you can get away with it here. I think, struggled against his restraints, but couldn't offer much of a resistance. That might work better.
Which could have been any military recovery facility in the AHP.
I think you said AHP before, but I honestly don't recall. So one of these things when you're introducing acronyms, it's always difficult. You want to give the introduction, like the definition early on, and then you want to use the acronym thereafter. Give context clues whenever you can to reinforce it. This P for protectorate. It could have been any recovery facility in the AHP. Something the protectorate. For the next sentence. Or in the protectorate is another way to do it. And then have AHP later. And then you have that middle of the paragraph monologue again. That's like the fourth time you've done that. Stop doing that. Please stop doing that. Sheesh. Yes. Monologues should be treated like dialogue. Same idea. New paragraph, dialogue tag, help us out, spread things out. The words on the screen, if you look at it, everything is so crunched together, it makes it hard to actually read anything. I know it's a waste of paper, but at the same time, visually speaking, you want some white space real estate on the page. It's okay to have that. It helps readers. They can actually read faster if there's more white space on a page. When you bunch it all together like that, where you have one page, one paragraph fits up an entire page, and then you have monologue inside paragraphs and dialogue inside paragraphs, it just becomes such a pain to read that it slows you down. Don't do this.
How does he know? She finally darted in to start an anti-anxiety mist over him. As his gasps pulled medicine into his lungs, the soldier settled, but he still stared at her with fevered intensity. She took a breath herself and steadied.
She took a breath of the anti-anxiety mist? Self-medicating there, Doc? Shame. Shouldn't be doing that. The anti-anxiety mist sounds kind of cool, though. Nice little tech. I think you should describe it more. What is it? Is it, how is it applied? Is she holding it in her hand? Is it a device that comes down, or she pulls it, she pulls it over? Is it like one of those Star Trek things where the hypo spray it puts into your neck? I get mist is obviously sprayed, so that that's a little bit of distinction. But I want a little more visual here. Give us those descriptive details. This is world building 101 here. And this is the danger with sci-fi, fantasy, world building in Chapter 1. There's so much to talk about. There's so much to world build. You don't want to do everything all at once, but readers will forgive you if you at least I'm going to say this specifically, description, not exposition. Give us the details of the room. Spend some time on it. Give us the details of the patient and the machine that he's in, the cold storage machine. Spend time on it. Those are the descriptive details readers want to know about because it matters in the moment. But if you focus on whatever the AHP is and the techno-babbles are us collective of bio-age looping, that's a lot to take in Chapter 1. Slow it down. Break that up. But imagery, get rid of the white room, give us those details. We crave those details.
You're on Proxima Centauri 2. We call it Prime because it was the first extrasolar settlement, but I think you interstellars mostly use Prox 2. Bakri trailed out, realizing she'd started to babble, then reoriented.
Did she trail out? I didn't. That was a complete sentence. You interstellars mostly use Prox 2. Dot. And also you have this weird apostrophe or single quote around it. Yeah. I would get rid of the single quotes. I think you're making it unnecessary. You could make it italics if you really wanted it to stand out a little bit, but you don't need the single quotes. Just put a period there and then say Bakri quieted for a moment, realizing she was starting to ramble. Have the man say something now. Looks like the next sentence is still her. Dialogue is a back and forth.
The standard date is 1503398. Your ship had to be redirected at Iverson Station's Epsilon jump, and the command decided to keep you here since our base has vacancies. Prime is wonderful, though. A peaceful, beautiful world where you can raise a family. People consider it a real reward assignment. Welcome, I'm Dr. Samaya.
Yeah, I don't like it. She's trying to explain to him that his ship was redirected. This is a major thing. Imagine you were planning to go to Aruba and you ended up in Antarctica. Okay, that's a slap in the face. It's like, what do you mean? Actually, a more real example is so many people who book flights for Australia and end up in Austria. And that's just so bad. But it happens. It actually happens. Okay, but if you arrive in a destination you were expecting to be in one place and now you're not, she knows that's not going to go over easy, and that there has to be a lot of explanation first, more than just, oh, your ship had to be redirected. By the way, you'll love it here. It's peaceful, beautiful. You can raise a family. What family? Did he bring a family with him? What do you mean family? Supposedly he left the family on the other place he was probably going to, I'm assuming. You can't just rip a person out of their life and say, don't worry about it, you'll be fine, no worries. That's not going to fly.
I don't want to be here. I shouldn't be here. Don't make me stay here. Please.
Not a single exclamation point in that whole thing? I was half expecting to have to say, dial it back a bit. You didn't even give a single one. I would have expected at least two. I don't want to be here! Exclamation point. He screamed, or he yelled across the room. Maybe his voice echoed, because that'll give you a sense of the size of the room, too. We don't even know how big this room is. We could be in a closet right now or an auditorium. I have no idea. I shouldn't be here. And look at that. 3 sentences with commas instead of periods. Those are 3 separate sentences. I don't want to be here! Exclamation point. I shouldn't be here! Period. Don't make me stay here! Period. Please! Exclamation point. Okay, let's keep going.
The last word emerged in a bare whisper.
So instead of an exclamation point on please, now it's a whisper. That doesn't make any sense. Why is he whispering? I guess this is exhaustion? That you need to sell that better. He'd be freaking out. And if he has no energy, I want to see the first one being powerful. I don't want to be here. We're pulling against his restraints. I shouldn't be here. His voice growing hoarse and his breath getting short. Don't make me stay here. ... That's a place for a ... And then a lowercase, please. See, that's the difference. You show us him getting out of breath. You show us him getting exhausted. And then the whisper comes out.
The medical officer plowed ahead, clutching the plan like a lifeline. I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do now. Putting you back into cold sleep without a full recovery could kill you. Kill me then. Get me out of here. Bakri suppressed a shiver. What is he afraid of? You know I can't do that, but we can get you strong enough to argue your case to your superiors, all right?
All right is not a word. Writers, all right is not a word. We all say it, but it is 2 words still. According to, Oxford English Dictionary and all that, those are 2 words, all and right. When it comes to proper novel formatting, you gotta spell it out.
Silence. The man had turned his face to the capsule wall. Well,
and I'm just passing on the constant inner monologue, random thought in the middle of a paragraph.
Why don't we start with the basics, shall we? You seem quite alert, but I'm required to ask, can you remember your name?
I'm required to ask, period. Can you remember your name? Capital C. Well, and don't add the hesitations. Well, why don't we start with the basics, shall we? That works fine. I'm still not getting the sense that she's a scientist or a doctor. I'm getting more of the sense that she was custodial staff that they hired for the day.
Bao Sing, he murmured in despair. Ask, can you remember your name? Banned him, the guard's order snapped into Bakri's ear implant.
Dialogue with a comma, dialogue with a period. The difference is whether or not you have a complete sentence, and whether or not you're offering a dialogue tag. Here, you're not offering a dialogue tag. You're offering a different sentence after banned him. Banned him, period. The guard's order snapped into her ear plant. Those are two separate sentences. So, if you would have said, banned him, Bakri heard through her implant, that would be one sentence. Banned him, period, Bakri heard the guard's order snap into her ear implant. Two sentences. No matter how you slice it, okay, you need to split it up.
She slapped a light coma band on the soldier's forehead, dropping him instantly into unconsciousness. He'd had no strength left to fight the effects.
What? Well, seems a little out of nowhere. Maybe his name triggered something? I thought they knew who this guy was already. Why would they be so upset?
What now? Bakri asked, breathing hard as she turned to find the two corps members visible again and looking down at her.
Again, why is she so petrified? You mentioned before that they were the most senior officers that she'd ever seen. So I guess she's intimidated, but she's a professional. Either she's a scientist or a doctor. You haven't said which. But either way, there's professionalism here. You could be nervous, you could be tense, you can be anxious, but at the end of the day, I assume that she's professional and has done this sort of thing before. Even if there's some weird circumstances about it, her instincts, her training should have kicked in. I don't understand all of this hesitation. It really feels like they hired somebody off the street for the day and said, listen, we couldn't afford a real medical doctor today, so congratulations. Here's a knife. Get cutting. You're a surgeon now.
This experience will be murky to him after the medical procedures to fit him to a higher gravity environment, the protector said. So, when he reawakens, we'll insist his orders were always for Prox 2 until he believes it. Meanwhile, she looked up at her consort. I think we've found exactly what we were looking for. Aye. Poor bastard, Aldred replied.
I'm confused. So what now is Bakri? That was a very long sentence. This experience will be murky to him after the medical procedures to fit him into a higher... That is a long sentence. Give us the protector dialogue tag before a sentence like that. The protector, maybe the window repolarized or unpolarized, and revealing the protector and the two corps members. And the voice spoke again in her head. This experience, ... So, all right. Final thoughts here. We have, it's an intriguing start. We have this unknown customer here who showed up and it wasn't supposed to have landed on this planet. They diverted him. And there's definitely a cover story going in place. This is good stuff. This is a good intro. If you give us a lot more bringing us into the scene, getting rid of that white room, lots of descriptive details, but bringing down the exposition, I think you'll be in a pretty good state to get people intrigued for what happens next and to find out what this mystery is. As far as the guard and the protector and the AHS, I like that you didn't go into too many details about that yet. That's good, because otherwise it would have just overwhelmed us. But I think you can offer a little bit more of the foreshadowing, a little bit more of the uneasiness between Bakri and them, and accentuate why it's an unusual day for her in the office. And also, again, reinforce your knowledge. Is she a scientist, or is she a doctor, or is she both? Either way, research the types of things you would go into for someone being revived out of something. A great contemporary example is someone who is brought back from cardiac arrest or from shock. What are the things you check? Go through the vitals, read them out. What are normal readings? What are abnormal readings? What do you want Bao to have coming out of stasis? Should his blood pressure be low? Should it be high? Should it be normal? Is it? Do you want it to be off somehow? What, pulse, heart rate, or pulse and heart rate, yeah, the same thing. Research those details to make us believe that she actually knows what she's talking about, and give her a little more confidence, even though she's anxious about the protectors and the guardians and all that. I want her to still persevere and do her job, not be like someone who was handed, like I said before, handed a knife and said, "Get in there, it's surgery, have fun." So, there you have it. That was a short one today. Not too bad. Got through this. And from now on, I think what I'll do is, for the smaller ones, we'll do one episode, and for the longer ones, we'll either record both in the 2-hour window, or we'll and then split it up after, or we'll split them up into two, and we'll throw 2 episodes up on YouTube instead of 1. That's all I got for now, and yeah, thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. New episodes are streaming Wednesday evenings, 7 to 9 Eastern Time, US, here on Twitch, and then uploaded to YouTube within a couple of days. If you want to support the channel, keep on watching, and don't forget to subscribe. And if you go visit the website, you can join our Discord server and submit pieces of your own for mastering. Until next time, cheers, y'all.